I'm Dwayne Betts, and I'm a poet. On December 7th, 1996, I was a 16-year-old honor student headed to college for all intents and purposes. On December 9th, 1996, I was locked up and I was headed towards pleading guilty to carjacking and spending the next 8.5 years in prison. And that really is the start of my journey as an intellectual and the start of my journey as a poet. For as long as I can remember, I've been writing poems to girls. They were never really good. I was like most young boys my age who had somewhat of a gift of gab, and we thought poetry would get us girls. And I never really saw poetry outside of sort of trying to compose a love song. But once I was in prison and I had a real need to articulate what it meant to be confined and really what it meant to be suddenly a statistic, and to recognize myself as being a part of, this huge statistic of young black men in prison, I was just looking for a means to communicate. In the solitary confinement, the library didn't come to you. You couldn't request books. The only way you got books to read is to yell out on the door and hope that another inmate in one of the other cells would throw you a book. And so I yelled for a book, and one day somebody slid a book under my cell, and it was Black Poets by Dudley Randall. And this was really an anthology that covered, from Phyllis Wheatley to the late 1960s. And so I'm reading this poetry and I come across Robert Hayden, and I come across Gwendolyn Brooks, and I come across Etheridge Knight. And it was particularly Etheridge Knight that gave me the idea that poetry could give a voice to someone who doesn't have a voice, because Etheridge Knight was writing poems really about prison and poems about his life, and not just, his life as sort of this glowing figure and this model for social reform or social change, but his life as somebody who had loved women, who had, been addicted to drugs, who had made numerous mistakes, and he was writing poems that spoke to that aspect of life. And I thought that, I could do this. I wrote a poem and I submitted it and I got it published. I remember the moment that I got the acceptance letter, though. I ran around prison as if I won the lottery, because poets crave audiences, at least me as a poet. I think more than anything else, I crave the ability to execute a line in the right way and to write a poem that conveys something of what I feel to somebody else. People always say, write what you know. And the reason why I consider that the worst piece of writing advice is because when you sit down, you can't help but to write from the experience that you know. But if you already know what it is that you want to say when you sit down and write, then you aren't writing poetry. You're writing a speech. You're writing a form of propaganda. The thing is, you write to know something. You write to discover what it is you want to know. And you write with this sense of hoping to be surprised by your own words. For me, poetry is all about clarity. The lyric is all about conveying that emotion distilled to its various essence. As I stand here at the edge of hell in Harlem and look out on the world, I wonder, what will I do in the face of what I remember? And when you talk about distilling experience, I think all of us, when we take time to reflect, we wonder, what is it that I will do today as I confront my memories? The most important thing that I've done since I've been out of prison is sort of dedicate myself to going to college. You meet this huge myriad of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and you get to engage with them on a personal level without a lot of times having to be bothered with the day-to-day pressures of making a living. When you're a student, all of those difficulties and problems and things you have to deal with get muted so that you can just focus on some, I think, the more important things in life, and you can really discover who it is you are and who it is you want to be. And that's the knowledge that you get to carry with you for the rest of your life. Whereas if you don't go to college, or if you don't finish, you don't really get a chance to get that knowledge. The things that I learned as a student, the conversations that I had with my professors, not even about the class, but about life, that experience was invaluable, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.